Welcome to Business Velocity. I am one of your hosts, Hannah Panuski, and myself, along with Dave Newell. Today, we are talking to Emily Morgan. We have our first interview of season 3. Today, we're going to talk all about delegation. What is it? How painful is it? And how can we do it well? Delegation is not an easy thing to do. It is very necessary and needed in small businesses, but it's often really hard to do well, to make the time to delegate and communicate and establish what is it that I need to hand off of my plate. So today, Emily is going to teach us how to do it better and give us lots of good tools and tips and tricks to just improve this very, very important skill. Emily Morgan is a delegation and productivity expert. She is also the founder and CEO of Delegate Solutions, which is a fractional executive assistant firm. She also created Learn With Verve, a training company that provides workshops, coaching, and certification on the topic of delegation. She is the author of Let It Go, her book featured in Harvard Business Review, Forbes, NYTimes, and Inc. magazine. And she lives in the Philadelphia area on a lavender farm with chickens, sheep, and a cadre of other animals, very similar to Dave's small farm that he also runs. So we definitely started the episode talking about small businesses and small farms. Please enjoy. We're doing our first interview. This is so exciting.
First interview, season 3.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing okay. Feeling like it's a Wednesday and I got to get energized and ready to go. It's been a big week already with 2 days of full trainings coming up here. We're working on some certifications and some advancements. Upskilling the team has kind of been a focus this year. So I'm in 8 hours of trainings and certifications the next 2 days. So it means the first 3 days of the week have been robust, full and rich, we like to say. How about you? What do you got going on?
I do feel like that is kind of a theme of my week as well. I am building trainings for other people. So I'm helping to build onboardings, or I'm helping to just train different people, or definitely coaching some leadership skills. So I feel like I'm the one doing the training, but it's really good. It also does remind me of, things that maybe I want to get better at, and other certifications that I might want to get, and things I want to learn. And I'm excited to learn today from our delegation expert we're going to talk to.
Yeah. It's interesting being, and I know our expert we're bringing in today also has some training certification work that she does as a facilitator in delegation in particular. I'm really excited to dive in and learn about that. As our audience may know, we do a lot of kind of training, teaching, development work, but we're almost always on the facilitation side. And I'm finding it to be both a good opportunity to kind of reflect and examine our own facilitation skills as I'm being facilitated.
Yeah.
It's very rare that I'm receiving a facilitation. I'm almost always delivering.
Yeah.
And so it's fun to be on the other side and think, kind of pick up tricks, things that they got going on. So it is nice to be on both sides of the house sometimes. I'm finding that to be enjoyable. Who knew?
Yeah. Who knew? No, I agree. I agree. I think it's going to be great. Well, without any further ado, shall we bring in Miss Emily Morgan?
Miss Emily Morgan, here she comes.
Here she comes. And there she is. Hi, Emily. How are you?
Hello, guys. Good to see you.
Good
Hey,
to see
Emily.
you.
It's good to see you. Thanks for joining us.
Yep. Glad to be here.
We were just saying you were the first guest of season 3. And season 1 and 2, we had maybe, what was it, about 15-ish guests a season. And so we're excited to have you as the first one. You're kicking things off right in season 3.
We're going to talk delegation. So nothing more exciting to talk about than that.
Nothing more exciting. It's funny though. We use a phrase with our clients a lot. We say, are you building a job or are you building a business?
Mm-hmm.
And one of the fundamental elements of that, obviously, is, are you keeping things or are you giving things away? And how do you do that well? And how do you build the systems and the structures and all the different things to do that? And delegation, obviously, is at the heart of a lot of that. So we're excited to dive into all things delegation, to glean from your expertise, to share that with the audience, and also maybe steal a few tips and tricks along the way.
Happy to. Thank you.
Yeah. Emily, where are you calling in from today?
I'm in the South Jersey area, right outside Philadelphia.
Nice. And I hear that you have a lavender farm.
Yes, a new lavender farm. We put in 150 plants this spring. Yeah, so it was a huge project because we live in the woods. We had to clear the land, amend the soil, which, believe me, we had pine trees with very acidic soils. So last year we were amending. This year we put plants in the ground, and so we're slowly working our way up to, being open. That'll be another year or two from now.
Did you delegate a lot of responsibilities to other people in amending the soil and planting those things, or were you in the thick of it yourself?
Great question. So I love learning. So I was definitely involved in learning about it. But I also love delegating. So I was able to bring in the state soil scientist, the Rutgers soil lab. I did the Rutgers Ready to Farm program. So I was like learning, but I was pulling in different experts because I knew nothing about soil, and they geeked out. Let me tell you, there was a whole contingent down here looking at our dirt.
You and I mentioned before the call that we have a small hobby farm as well. We also have lots of pine trees, but we have red clay where we're at. And it is very acidic, similar kind of a thing. Like we're on year 3 of amending the soil to feed the horses and goats and keep grass growing. But it's a whole science. It's a whole world. Yeah.
Cover crop, lime. Those are the secrets.
100%. Yeah. And the best time for lime was 6 months ago.
Yeah.
I have a feeling that like the two of you could probably have a different podcast episode just about how to grow things. Yeah, farms, how to grow things in the earth. And
all farms honestly are a really similar endeavor.
Yeah.
It's a lot about building systems. It's a lot about fixing. It's a lot about getting experts in. It's a lot about moving things around, and it's a constant, ever evolving target.
Yeah.
That's what I love about it is that I realized that with gardening, it's like, I like learning. I like trying it this year, seeing all the things that don't work. What do I got to do next year so that it works? It's kind of fun.
That's awesome. Well, and so Emily, we introduced you before you hopped on with us, but I want to give you a chance to introduce yourself as well, specifically the 2 businesses that you run and what you're here to talk about today.
Perfect. So I've been an entrepreneur for 18 years. I started Delegate Solutions when my son was born, and he just graduated high school last month. Just unbelievable to go through because he's my only child. Have you guys gone through this yet?
Not yet. Children.
Yeah. I'm not far. I've got a soon to be high schooler here starting in a couple weeks, and then 2 others on the journey. And I can't imagine. I'll be the tearful dad for sure during graduation. I don't think I'm going to make it.
I cried like 27 times, so it's emotional. I started Delegate when he was born as a way to be more present to raise my son, right? And so the virtual assistant industry was new when I first started, and we've sort of, been part of what it is today. And I think that we're actually quite different than when you think about a virtual assistant. We've really evolved into something different that's much more consultative. We're doing strategy plus execution. So rather than just providing like a doer, someone you tell them that you need this done, we're helping you figure out what to delegate, putting a strategy together and putting a team around you to help you move that forward. Most of our clients are entrepreneurs, small business owners. And then a couple of years ago, I wrote my book, Let It Go, which is a book about delegation, but it's not the normal, like, tell me how to delegate. It's really about the mindset and the struggles that we face as leaders as we try to let go, and all the limiting beliefs and self-sabotaging thoughts that come up that get in the way of being able to even start to delegate, right? So I wrote that book, and this past year we created a second company called Verve, which is training, workshops, and coaching on this content and delegation. So it's a newer business, it's a training business, but we apply, like I was just meeting with the Delegate team before this meeting, because they took the certification program so that they can apply the tools and frameworks to the work they do with clients. So it's pretty holistic, but a little bit separate.
Well, I'm really glad you mentioned the psychology of delegation. obviously the technical side of it is like, how do you transfer a project? How do you document it? How do you process? How do you do that part well? But we recently brought on an EVA in March. She's brilliant. She's amazing. She's been a huge asset to the team. I probably should have done it a year ago, if I'm being honest. And as the person who delegates the most, I'm recognizing my own limitations and my own like it really has raised I didn't realize how much I liked controlling that, or how much I really feel tied to whatever that thing is, whether it's a task, like could be an accounting thing or a way an invoice is sent or whatever it is. Like when you have ownership and you're the one who understands it and controls it, there are those mental barriers that show up. Asking for a friend. How do you coach people through that? Like, what does that process look like?
Well, there's a great article that I found as I put my certification program together that I can share with you guys. I didn't write it, but it's really the only other content I've seen out there that speaks to what you're talking about besides my content. But this article is about delegation and grief. And it talks about this underlying emotion of grief that people don't even realize is there as they're trying to let go. So, for example, there's things that you're holding on to because, one, you're concerned no one can do it as well as you can. You are concerned about, well, if I'm not doing that anymore, what am I doing instead? And is that valuable? Or maybe if I'm not doing that anymore, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing because that's really scary and hard and unknown. And so we hang on to these things that might agitate us, but feel really comfortable to us because we have mastery over them, right? So there's all of this under the surface conflict going on. And that's sort of the work that I do.
Yeah, that's actually really interesting. We do a lot of change management in organizations, and we say, if people don't fear change, they fear loss.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? It's that idea of, but it's comfortable, and or I might lose some status if I take this off of my plate. Well, I'm seen as the expert in that, or I'm seen as the go-to person, but now I'm no longer seen as the go-to person. You kind of have to grapple with. So I really appreciate the connection to grief, because grief and loss obviously are tied together. That's the first time I've heard that. I think that's wise. Thanks for sharing that.
I have this underlying desire to bring academia and the work that I do into one conversation, because there's not a connection of research and science to the work. So I'm doing a 3-part panel series this fall where I'm bringing in professors and academics that have studied adjacent work, and we're going to apply it to delegation. And so I have one coming up with a Harvard professor, a Northeastern professor, and a leadership coach. And we're going to really kind of dive into the science of letting go and all of this backstory that no one talks about.
Interesting.
Well, I think Dave's background as a teacher, I think that definitely would resonate.
Yeah, I was I came from academia before I got into the consulting world. So I often refer to it as the bridge space, right? Between theory and application, there's a lot of value on both sides. Either one in isolation doesn't quite fully do it, but it often is hard to bridge the gap between those. So you're speaking to my heart right here, Emily.
Yeah.
Well, I'm bringing one of them into my book to bring some more of that data, because I'm working on a second edition for Let It Go. It's actually what I'm working on this month, is to infuse even more content into the book, and bringing that science piece is a big part of that.
Well, and I know one thing that we talked about or wanted to allow you to talk about was how to delegate well. Because I'll say from my end as well, I am learning. I am very much so a student of how to delegate. Now we have this assistant. She is, to Dave's credit, she's fantastic. But I so often fall into the trap of well, I'll just do it. Well, I'll just do it. So I know you brought a visual to also help with this too. But if you don't mind, go ahead and share your screen. And for our viewers who are able to, please join us over on YouTube. You'll be able to see this visual. We'll make sure that the link to the YouTube video is in the show notes. But yeah, I'll hand it off to you to tell us, how do you delegate well?
Yeah, so I teach that there's really 3 parts to doing it well. The discipline, which is you make a commitment to do it and you're going to see that through. The art is what you're delegating. So it's the fun part. Typically, it's kid in a candy store moment where you're just like really excited about what you can give to someone else. And then there's the science, which is how you actually hand something off to somebody else. So, we look at our work under this lens of three pieces. And so as you're assessing your own delegation skills, this is a great way to suss out where you're getting stuck, right? Is it your commitment to it, like constantly intervening, you're getting in the way? Okay, let's use some tools and work on that. Is it, I don't know what to delegate, there's so many things, we'll work on that. Or is it like, I've tried and I can't get it right? Then we'll look at the science. So that is the three parts of delegating well. I also have built a system that I teach, which teaches people how to think about delegation in a reliable and repeatable way, right? And so there's 5 steps to the system, and I can run through them quickly if you would like. Okay. Yeah. So step 1 is focus, and that's really about centering yourself and getting clear on what you want to spend your time on. So this could be, your morning meditation. This could be when you sit down at your desk every Monday, you have a time block where you think about, what are the things that I want to get done this week? What are the things that only I can do? What are the things that bring me energy and joy and I feel fulfilled when I'm doing them? Making sure that you're creating space for those things, because what I teach is that unless we know what we want to spend our time on, delegating never moves the needle for us because we don't have clear vision on what that is. And so we'll just keep delegating and it doesn't feel good or bring any relief because we're not actually redirecting the time that we save back up to those activities. So step 1 is focus. Step 2 is evaluate. So we want to look objectively at how we spent our time. So let's look at last week. Ask ourselves, is this advancing my goals? Looking at maybe who could have done some of the things that we wish we would have delegated. Take that knowledge into step 3, which is prioritize. And that's about figuring out a delegation strategy that frees you up so that you can do your most impactful work. Step 4 is handoff. That's how you take these activities and you give them to someone else in a way that is productive. And then step 5 is feedback. And, I like to teach that we want to have a healthy and open feedback loop always with delegation because we're always trying to get better at it and set expectations for the future.
I love that. And I think that feedback piece is so key. As someone who focuses a lot on like implementing process, one thing that people always blow past is channels for feedback and reviewing, after action reviews, if you will, or postmortems, however you want to call it. Looking back at like, what did we do? What's working? What's not? How can we do better? We just blow past it because it's like we checked the box, we handed it off or we rolled it out. So yeah, I think that feedback piece is super crucial. And I would imagine too, it also helps just build trust that it is being done the way you want to do it.
Yeah. You're increasing your odds for delegation going better for the future, right? The more you commit to that step.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And to pull academia into it, Emily, as John Dewey said, we don't learn by doing, we learn by thinking about what we do. Which is obviously the caveat is if you're not doing anything, you don't have a whole lot to think about. So you got to take some action, you got to do some work. But to your point, the after action reviews is where a lot of that learning comes from. Where do you see in clients that you're working with, where do they fall apart the most often? Like, is there any one of these 5? So focus, evaluate, prioritize, handoff, feedback. Are there any one of those 5 where you just see a pattern of, okay, this is where we really need to dive in and support the clients the most because there's kind of a pattern of maybe resistance or whatever it might be, or stuff that gets in the way?
Yeah, great question. And I was just discussing that with my team on the prior call. And I would say there's not like one particular step that people get hung up on. I think where people will also gloss over, though, Hannah, to your point, is on step 1, because we just zoom into the week, we're off and running, and we're not thinking about what is the best use of my time, what is my most impactful contribution to the company, to the work that I'm doing. And like I said, when that happens and you don't create that focus, delegation falls flat. You don't feel like you're making progress. because you don't have that vision of what you need to be doing with the time that's freed up.
Mm. Yeah, is there any thought to timeframes around that? Like, for example, when we brought our EVA in, we had kind of a 3-month onboarding plan, and it was month one, we want to transfer some of these basic functions that are, a little bit more like cause and effect, like this, then this, kind of easy to get rid of. Then you've got, month two was a little bit more advanced, and month three was a little bit more advanced, like where we're running kind of full processes or full elements. And then there's like when I'm doing a good job as a supervisor or as a leader or delegator, Sunday night before Monday comes around, I'm looking at the week in advance and I'm saying, okay, here's the stuff that I need to get off my plate, or here's the things that, are going to get in the way. And then we have our Monday meeting and I'm delegating. I'm saying, all right, here's the stuff that's going on this week. Here's what I need you to do. Am I super disciplined and great at that? Probably not. But speak to some of the time frame, like how you transition some of these things, because I would imagine some of it is quick, immediate, and simple, and some of it is much more complicated in development. Like you mentioned strategy at the outset. Maybe how does that play into it?
Great example and question, and you're teeing me up for a tool that I was going to share with your audience.
Right. Look at
that. So what I would recommend is using a tool like this, what's called the Delegate Freedom Analysis. And the way that we run the tool is we always want to start up here with the positive. So if you're listening, this is the pie quadrant broken into 4 sections, and we're starting in the top left section. And so this is, what are the things you love to do and are great at? You could spend all your time doing those things. The language that I would use is most impactful contribution, right? So for me, when I think about as the leader, my most impactful contribution, that's creating, connecting, collaborating, and learning. Those are the things for me that are going up here in my top left quadrant. That means all the time that I'm freeing up in my focus part of my delegate freedom system, I'm trying to refill that time with those activities, right? So then the next thing you're doing is you're dropping down here to the bottom right quadrant. That's where you're looking for things that you're doing that you don't like, you're not good at. We call it the suck bucket. This is like the part of your day of the things that like just exhaust you, right?
That's
like
hysterical.
I didn't make that up, but it's a great name. Over here, then we move, so we go from awesome to suck, and then we're coming over here to the bottom left. This is the martyr zone. This is the things you're doing like begrudgingly. You don't like it, you're kind of good at it, but you're doing it because you have to. Sometimes like it's project management, it's moving things forward, kind of more obscure activities. And as you're filling in these blanks down here, try to attribute how much time you think you're spending on those activities. So this is a completed one. It might be easier. So like we've got scheduling and email and managing my team and researching, and we're putting hours next to these activities for the suck bucket and the martyr zone. And then the last quadrant is up here on the right. This is the hardest quadrant to think about. We call it the letting go of excellent category because it's things that you're really good at that you might think that only you can do, but honestly, others on your team can do it. And if it's a repeatable thing that's up here in this quadrant, it's absolutely a candidate for delegation because you can turn it into a process, hand it off to somebody else. So I can give an example for me up here in this quadrant used to be that I would run client intake calls and I would build the delegation strategy. I was like, well, that's what I do. I'm like delegation expert, right? Very easy because like I've mastered it, but I realized it's a repeatable thing that I could turn into a process. And now I haven't run one of those calls in 5-10 years, right? So it's looking for those hard things up in this quadrant that you can delegate to get you closer to here.
I love this so much. I have 4 clients like right in the top of my head that I'm like, I'm going to put this episode in front of them. Just gently be like, hey, you should listen to this. Because I think this is such a great way of compartmentalizing, clearly outlining like, yeah, what are the things that need to go? How can you think about them and kind of where can you start? I also deeply relate to pretty much everything on this board. So yeah, this is great.
And if you really want to make it hurt with your client, you can like add up. What we would coach you to do is add up the hours that are down there, and then we have an exercise called Act Your Wage, where it's basically taking your annual salary, dividing it by 2040 or whatever number you like, coming up with, what you're paying yourself to do those things. Or you can invert it and say, I'm spending $70,000 on work I don't like and I'm not good at, when I could be generating $200,000 of new revenue if I just freed up these 20 hours down here.
Yeah.
That makes sense. So.
Yeah. I like how straightforward and clean this is. It's interesting what rose for me in bucket number 4, where you're talking about like you're quite good at it. I started thinking about, well, what gets in the way is probably ego for the most part, right? Of like, yeah, I'm good at this. I like this. I should keep this. I should own this because I'm good at it, right? Because I'm good at it and it brings energy. But I liked your distinction, being able to say, yeah, but it's repeatable. Like, this is a thing you can do over and over and over again. Somebody else can do this probably at the level that you can do it at. Like, you're ultimately replaceable in this category.
Exactly.
Even if you got to let go of some of that, there's a humility element to this, maybe a little bit.
Yeah, because you're good at it. And a lot of the times it's tied to our ego and our identity of what we're contributing to our business. If you're the leader, what you're contributing as the visionary to the business. And like, this is constantly changing. So this isn't an exercise that you do once. Like, you can do this every quarter, every 6 months, and just keep finding more things that you can kind of push down through the organization.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing that's sitting with me too, we talked about it a second ago, but just like trust and like holding people accountable to what you then delegate. So I'm curious, how do you help your clients build trust or get comfortable with accountability with their team as they go through this process?
I think a lot of it has to do with communication, so that feedback loop at the end, but also we have another tool called a 6-step delegation template, which it just sets someone up for success, where you're like, I want these kind of updates in this format at this frequency. And it's like, for you to work through that process before you try and hand that off to someone else, that's responsibility and leadership, right? It's committing to do that and do that well. So there's another tool I can share that, would help you actually delegate well to somebody else. But one of the tricks that we use at Delegate with our work is to find some small wins early on, because that builds confidence around delegation, so that we want to do it more, right? Because we're getting excited, we're feeling relief, even if it's like you just ordered the sneakers that I've been wanting to order for 6 months or something like that. Like, it's progress and it creates momentum.
There's so much value in what you've shared with us today, and I very much so appreciate all that you have shared. How can people follow you, connect with you if they would love to work with you? Kind of tell people where they can find you.
I'm on LinkedIn. I'm just looking to see what my LinkedIn is. It's linkedin.com, and my handle is Delegate Solutions. You can find me there. That's where we post a lot of our thought leadership content that's new and fresh. Like I shared, I'm working on the 2nd edition of my book, so there'll be a lot more content being produced around delegation. And then we're running these panel webinars with academics in the fall. So lots going on there. And then our training business is learnwithverve.com.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll have all those links in the show notes. So everybody definitely be sure to check those out and connect with Emily and her team if this has resonated with you. Dave, any other questions?
I was just going to, maybe last question I would ask you is if folks are new to the delegation game, they're thinking about, should I hire an EVA? I mean, honestly, Hannah and I went back and forth for probably 6 months on should we do this or not before we pulled the trigger. And like I said, I mean, we should have probably done it a year ahead of time. What's the best place to start? Like if this is new for somebody, they're considering it, they're thinking about it, what's kind of the best first action?
I think running an exercise on your time, like I just kind of went through, will give you some data around, because one of the questions when you engage a service like mine is, how many hours per month of work are you trying to move off your plate, right? And that's a stumbling block for people trying to move forward sometimes. So when you can run an exercise like this on how you're currently spending your time and lay it out in this way, you can see very quickly like, ooh, that's like 40 hours of work, right? And so that'll give you a lens of, can you go with a fractional resource? Do you need a full-time resource? Do you need somebody on site? Do you need somebody virtual? Like there's so many options. And then what you find in those lower two quadrants can help you assess the level of the resource that you need. So like my service, super consultative, teamed approach, strategy and execution versus like an offshore VA kind of resource that's like very task oriented. You tell them what you need them to do. Hopefully it gets done. So it just depends on the type of things you're trying to delegate, the volume, and the skill set is how I would think about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And can we make that presentation that you shared with us today available in the show notes as well?
Yep.
People want to download it and utilize it? That'd be great.
I'm going to give you a link to the actual Delegate Freedom Analysis tool that you can share so people can download that tool themselves.
Awesome. I know who I'm going to send it to, and I'm going to send it to myself as well.
I was like,
we all need it.
Is it me, Hannah? You can just tell me, it's okay.
And honestly, like, I do think I like how you said that it is an art, like, because it is an art. It's such an art. There's a science to it, but there is such an art to it. So I really appreciate how you frame it and how you're teaching this to people, because I have never been able to verbalize it this way. And I've learned so much in the last 30 minutes that is useful for us as consultants that, we help people with leadership, we help them with process and operations and things like that. But this truly is such an art and there is such a specialization here. So I hope people reach out and connect and continue to utilize your services.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I feel like we just talked to the foremost expert on delegation. I'm excited.
I would like to so, but thank you. We all struggle with it. Like and I have so many different tools and concepts. We have a bottleneck behavior diagnostic where you can see how you might get in the way and learn some strategies of how to overcome those things.
Cool.
There's just so much to talk about. It's the number one leadership skill, and 3 out of 4 leaders say they suck at it. So there's something missing in terms of like training.
Yeah, very cool. Well, thank you again so much, Emily, for joining us. And hopefully we'll get to reconnect with you soon.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Emily.
I mean it. There's so much in that I'm like, I'm going to send it to this person and this person and this person. And definitely to myself. I love the quadrant thinking. You know me, I like compartmentalizing stuff and making it very digestible. And I think that is exactly what she's doing with delegation. Very digestible, very approachable. And I appreciate a framework like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, the seed that got planted with me when she mentioned the element around grief, like really honestly thinking about, being the kind of founder of an organization, building it, like you secretly, or maybe not secretly, get attached to most of it, right? Because at some point in time, you kind of did it all.
Yeah.
Right. So you have these little attachments to things that maybe you didn't even realize you had. Like I've been thinking about that a little bit, even, as we are continuing to expand our team and delegate things, there are certain things that I feel secretly attached to that kind of force, I'm thinking now about, okay, well, how do I actually maybe formally grieve that or acknowledge the loss and move through it and et cetera? Because I don't miss doing the activity itself necessarily. I miss the connection to it is maybe the way I would think about that. So anyway, I thought, there's the tactical version of it. There's a strategy version of it. There's the how do you do it? But there's also this kind of emotional, psychosomatic version of it that is important to understand and grapple with as well. And I appreciate Emily, firmly planting a foot in both houses and making sure that that's part of the story. I gained a lot from that conversation, and I hope you do too.
Yeah. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in and checking out this episode of Business Velocity. Like I said, we're going to have a lot of stuff for you in the show notes, links to Emily's companies and also to her on LinkedIn, as well as the guide that she shared with us today and another guide that she's got for you. So we've got lots of resources for you in the show notes. Be sure to check those out, and we'll see you next time.
See you next time.
Thank you for joining us on Business Velocity. Today's insights are just the beginning of enhancing your business's momentum. Don't forget to subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts. You can also explore our framework at theevolveddifference.com. And remember, the time is now to take these strategies and apply your learning and achieve velocity. See you next time.